King Lear. Act 1. A long time ago, Lear was the king of Britain. He had 3 daughters. The oldest daughter, Gonriel, was married to the Duke of Albany. His middle daughter, Regan, was the wife of the Duke of Cornwall. The King of France and the Duke of Burgundy both wanted to marry his youngest daughter, Cordelia. King Lear was old and tired, and he decided to give the country to his 3 daughters.
Now that I have divided my country into 3 parts, I wish to spend my old age in peace, and I want to leave the hard work of government to those who are young and strong, my daughters and their husbands.
They and their husbands would rule instead of him, while he, with 100 knights to protect him, would stay with each daughter in turn for a month. In order to decide how to share the country between his daughters, he asked them to say how much they loved him. Gunrael, the oldest, said,
"Sir, I love you more than words can say, better than eyesight, freedom, better than all my riches, as much as life itself, as much as my health, my beauty, my honor, as much as any child ever left its father. Much more than all these things, I love you."
The king was very pleased with her answer.
I make you the lady of all this land, from here to here. You and your children will rule this land forever.
Now the second daughter, Regan, said,
"I'm just like my sister, so you should value me the same. She has said exactly what I feel, except that I love you even more. I'm only happy when I am with you, and I care nothing for any other things."
The king was very pleased again.
To you and your children forever I give this other third of our country, no less than the one I give to Gunrael.
Cordelia, King Lear's youngest daughter, was his favorite. He was sure that Cordelia would say that she loved him even more than the other 2. But Cordelia didn't want to compete with her sisters in boasting about her love for her father. She knew that they did not love their father as much as they said. When her turn came, she said,
"I cannot put my heart into my mouth. I love you, Your Majesty, as much as a daughter should love her father. No more, no less."
Lear was shocked. He told her to think again and gave him a bitter answer. Cordelia said,
"My dear lord, you are my father. You brought me up. You loved me. It is right that in return for this, I should obey you, love you, and honor you, and I do."
King Lear was even more shocked and got very angry. He said that Cordelia was no longer his daughter and gave her share of the country to Gonrael and Regan.
Fine, then keep your truth and nothing else. I am no longer your father, and from this day, you are a stranger to my heart and to me.
It was now the turn of everyone else to be shocked. The king's advisers all thought that he was wrong, but the Earl of Kent was the only one who was brave enough to say anything. He reminded the king that Cordelia was his favorite daughter and that she loved him very much. He asked the king to think again and to act more sensibly, but the king just got very angrier and he sent Kent away.
"My lord king."
Quiet, Kent. Do not come between me and my anger. I loved her the most and thought she would be kind to me in my old age.
"Lord king, I have always loved and honored you, but you really don't want to do this."
You are making me angry.
"Let your anger fall on me, but I must speak. What are you doing, old man?"
Silence, Kent, if you value your life.
"I am not afraid to die in serving you."
Out of my sight!
"I say that what are you doing is wrong."
Hear me now, you foolish man. You have tried to make me break my word, a thing that I have never ever done. You have 5 days to get out of my country. After that, if you are found here, you will be killed.
"Goodbye, king. May the gods protect you, Cordelia."
Lear then asked the King of France and the Duke of Burgundy if they still wanted to marry Cordelia. now that she had nothing apart from the clothes she was wearing. Burgundy said,
I don't know what to say.
but the King of France loved her for telling the truth and didn't care about land or money. He said,
Beautiful Cordelia, to me you are still rich and desirable, because you tell the truth. I will marry you and make you the Queen of France.
She is yours, France. She is no daughter of mine, and I will never see her face again. Leave without my love and without my blessing.
Say goodbye to your sisters.
Cordelia said,
Sisters, our father loves you. I know what you truly are, but I don't want to say it out loud. Love our father and look after him.
His sisters warned each other.
Sister, I have a lot to say to you. I think our father will leave tonight.
Yes, he's going to you first, the next month to us.
I have been watching him closely, and you see how he changes his mind all the time. Now the result, he always loved Cordelia the most, and then he does this to her. It shows his bad judgment.
It's his age that makes him so changeable.
He has always acted without thinking carefully. And now, the result, this fault will grow worse.
We will see more sudden acts like sending Kent away.
We must talk more about this. If he continues to have power and to be so angry and unpredictable, he may turn against us. We have to stop him as soon as possible.
Meanwhile, the Earl of Gloucester's illegitimate son Edmund was planning to take his legitimate brother's place. He showed his father a letter which he said had been written by Edgar. The letter asked him to help Edgar kill their father for a share of everything the old man had. Gloucester believed this. Edmund had told Edgar that their father was very angry with him and advised him to hide from the old man. After Lear and his 100 knights had stayed with Gonrail for 2 weeks, things started to go wrong. Gonrail told her servants to be rude and quarrel with Lear's men. Although Lear had sent him away, the Earl of Kent returned. He disguised himself as a poor man and he became Lear's servant. He hit Gonrail's servant Oswald for speaking disrespectfully to Lear. And then Lear's fool joked that Lear himself had become the fool because he had given away all his power to his daughters. Gonrail was unkind to Lear about the behavior of his men, and now Lear cursed Gonrail, wishing that if she had a child that it would torment her. Lear was even more angry when he found that Gonrail had tried to dismiss 50 of his men. He was so upset by Gonrail's behavior that he was afraid he would go mad. Act 2. Edmund told his brother Edgar to run away because someone had told the father where he was hiding, and that he would be killed. Edgar believed this and ran. He planned to hide from his father's men by pretending to be a mad, homeless person. Meanwhile, Edmund cut his arm with his sword. Then he told his father that Edgar had done this because he, Edmund, had refused to help Edgar kill the old man. Gloucester was very angry, but also very sad. He told Regan,
Oh, mother, my old heart is cracked. It's cracked.
Regan blamed Edgar's apparent evil plan to kill his own father on the terrible influence of Lear and his knights. Lear asked King to take a letter to his daughter Regan. The letter told Regan to get ready because he was coming to stay at her house with all his knights. But Gonrail also sent a letter to Regan. She complained about their father and warned his sister that his men were nosy and expensive. The two messengers arrived at the same time, and they argued with each other. Kent hit Gonrail's messenger Oswald, and he fell to the ground. Regan and her husband, the Duke of Cornwall, ordered their men to make Kent a prisoner, even though it was extremely disrespectful to do this to the king's messenger. When the king arrived, the first thing he saw was his servant Kind as a prisoner. He couldn't believe that anyone would dare to do this to his messenger.
How strange that they should leave their home and not send back my messenger.
Good morning, my lord.
Why are you tied up? Who has dared to do this to you?
It was your son and daughter.
No.
Yes.
No, they would not.
Yes, they have.
They dare not to do it. They could not, would not do it. It's worse than a murder, to treat my messenger so badly. I can hardly speak. I feel pain round my heart. Keep down, sorrow. Where is my daughter?
With the Earl of Gloucester, sir, inside.
He demanded to see his daughter and her husband, but he was told they were too tired to see him. Then he saw that Goneril was already there. She had come to tell his sister not to look after Lear.
I'm glad to see your majesty.
My dear Regan, your sister has been so unkind. It's like a sword in my heart.
Please, sir, be patient. I'm sure you are wrong about her. She would never treat you badly. You can't blame her for trying to stop the bad behavior of your men.
My curse is on her.
Regan later told the king to go home with Goneril. She told him to send away 50 of his men and asked Goneril to forgive him for being angry and thinking too much of himself.
Sir, you are old and near the end of your life. You should be guided by someone who understands your condition better than you do. I ask you to return to my sister and admit you have wronged her.
Never, Regan. She sent away half my men. She was cruel and ungrateful to me. I hope heaven destroys her.
Oh, sir, you will wish me the same when you are in a bad mood.
No, Regan, I will never curse you. You are kind-hearted, not unkind like her.
Father, please try to behave sensibly. Return and stay with my sister for the rest of the month. Send away half your men and then come to me.
Return to her and 50 men sent away? I can say with Regan, I and my 100 knights.
No, you can't. I'm not ready for you. If you come to me, bring only 25 men. I have no room for more.
I gave you everything. Our agreement was that I should keep 100 knights.
Why do you need 25? Or 10? Or 5?
Why do you need one?
Where's the Gloucester?
Oh dear, it's almost night. This storm is terrible and there's no shelter for many miles around.
Sir, he wants his own way. And if he suffers, no one is to blame but himself. Shut your doors.
The king now realized that giving away everything had been a terrible mistake. He had lost all his power. And his 2 older daughters felt no love or kindness for him. It was night time and a terrible storm was just beginning. Goneril and Regan offered shelter to Lear, but not to any one of his men. So he went out in the storm, alone, except for Kind and his old foal. Act 3. Kind found out that the King of France had come to England with an army and with Cordelia. Kind sent Cordelia a letter to explain what had happened. Then he went looking for Lear. Meanwhile, Lear's sorrow and anger had become too great for him to bear, and he went mad. He shouted the storm to do its worst.
Blow winds and crack your cheeks.
Kind persuaded Lear to take shelter in a small, dirty hut. For the first time, Lear began to feel sorry for people other than himself, as he thought about those who had no homes and only old, thin clothes to wear. Inside the hut, they found Edgar, who was disguised as a beggar called Bull Tom. He was pretending to be mad and he had no clothes, covering himself just with a blanket. Lear was sure that poor Tom had gone mad because he had given everything to his daughters, just like Hans. Meanwhile, Gloucester told Edmund that Albany and Cornwall were quarreling with each other, and that he had received a letter which told him about the King of France's plan to rescue Lear from his cruel daughters. Gloucester felt upset because Regan and Cornwall had stopped him from helping Lear, or even talking about him. He had now decided to take Lear's side against Cornwall, Regan, and their husbands. Hearing this, Edmund decided to repeat everything to Cornwall, even though he knew that his father would be in a serious trouble. Gloucester now refused to follow the Duke of Cornwall's orders and instead went out looking for Lear. He found him in the hut and asked him to come back to his castle, but Lear refused to leave Bortom. Then, in his madness, Lear held a mock trial of his evil daughters with the four, Bortom and Kent as judges, and stalls in the place of his daughters. Later, Gloucester heard Regan and Cornwall as they planned to kill Lear, so he warned Kent to take the king to Dover, where he would be safe with Cordelia and the King of France. Cornwall was very angry when Edmund told him what Gloucester had done. He called Gloucester a traitor and told Edmund that he would punish the old earl. Edmund decided to leave so that no one could blame him for not protecting his father.
Go quickly and find your husband and show him this letter which we took from Gloucester.
Hang him!
Pull out his eyes.
Leave him to me, Edmund. You go with Goneril. It's not right for you to watch what I intend to do to your father, the traitor.
Ungrateful traitor!
I'm not a traitor, you unkind lady.
Cornwall decided to punish Gloucester by blinding him. He ordered his servants to tie the old man to a chair. Then he blinded one of Gloucester's eyes.
Where have you seen the king?
To Dover.
Why to Dover? Didn't we tell you?
Because you wouldn't stand and watch you and your sister torment him any longer.
Just as he was going to blind the other eye too, one of his servants suddenly attacked him. He couldn't bear the Duke's cruelty any longer. The Duke of Cornwall killed the man, but he himself was also hurt. Despite this, he went on to blind Gloucester's other eye, and then told his suffering victim that it was his own son Edmund who had betrayed him. Gloucester then realized that Edmund had lied to him from the beginning and that Edgar was innocent. At the point, Regan ordered the blind old man to be thrown out of his own castle into the storm. Act 4. Edgar and Gloucester, who was now blind, met out in the windy heath. Edgar took care of his father, but didn't say who he was. He still pretended to be poor mad Tom. Gloucester remembered seeing Tom the night before with Lear. The old man said,
He reminded me of my poor son Edgar. How I wish I could hold him in my arms again. Though I will never be able to see him now, we are like flies, and the gods are like cruel little boys that torment and kill us for fun.
While Gloucester was talking like this, Edgar could hardly speak because of his sorrow at seeing his poor father blinded. Gloucester now asked Edgar to take him to Dover. He wanted to throw himself from the high cliffs there and end his unhappy life. Edgar agreed, but instead took him to the middle of a field. Gloucester jumped, but of course he only fell to the ground. Edgar lifted him up, pretending to be a friendly stranger. He allowed his father to think that he had fallen and survived by a miracle. Meanwhile, Goneril had fallen in love with Edmund. She now despised her own husband, the Duke of Albany, as a weak person. On the other hand, Albany had come to hate what Goneril, Regan, Cornwall and Edmund between them had done. He told his wife,
You are not worth the dust, which the road wind blows in your face.
Then a messenger brought the news that the Duke of Cornwall had died after the servants' attack during the blinding of Gloucester. Goneril was immediately worried by this news. It meant that his sister Regan was now a widow and might marry the man she now wanted for herself, Edmund. Albany's mind was on something very different. He now understood that Edmund had betrayed his own father to Cornwall's cruelty, and he was very angry. He decided to punish Edmund for being such a terrible traitor. At this point, the King of France had to return to France, leaving Cordelia near Dover with his army. There, she read Kent's letter telling her about Lear's fall into madness. Lear was now in Dover, but he felt too ashamed of the way he had behaved towards Cordelia to see her. Gloucester and Edgar met Lear covered in wild flowers and out of his mind. Gloucester recognized Lear's voice as the old king explained that the poor and the powerless are always the ones who are punished for their crimes, while the rich and powerful do the same things but are not punished. Then Lear recognized Gloucester, the first sign that his madness was beginning to disappear. Meanwhile, Goneril's servant Oswald had been ordered to find Gloucester and kill him. But Edgar, still in disguise, prevented this. They fought and he killed Oswald. Then he found and read a letter that Oswald was carrying from Goneril to Edmund. In the letter, Goneril told Edmund to kill her husband Albany so that he could marry her. Now, Cordelia found Lear. She was very sad to see him mad. Her doctor gave him medicine to make him well again.
How's the king?
He is still sleeping.
Oh, you kind gods, repair his broken mind and bring him back to his senses.
We could wake him now, Your Majesty. He has slept long enough.
My dear father, I hope this kiss can help to repair the damage that my two sisters did to you. Even if you were not their father, they should have respected your white hairs.
When he woke up, he was confused and didn't know where he was.
Sir, do you know me?
You are a spirit, I know.
Cordelia knelt down in front of him and asked for his blessing.
Look at me, father. Hold your hand over me and give me your blessing.
I think this lady is my child, Cordelia.
So I am.
As for Lear, he realized that this was Cordelia. He fully expected her to be angry with him. After all, she had every reason to be. But Cordelia made him understand that she loved him and forgave him. Both father and daughter were extremely happy to be together again. Act 5. When Regan asked Edmund if he was in love with Goneril, he denied it. But just then Goneril and Albany arrived, and the sisters were immediately jealous of each other. Each knew that the other wanted to marry Edmund, and each wanted to make sure that she herself would win him. As for Edmund, he couldn't make up his mind which sister to marry. Meanwhile, Edgar, who was still disguised, gave a letter to Albany. It was the one that Goneril had written to Edmund, so with this, Albany knew that his own wife had planned to kill him and marry his killer. Now it was time for the great battle between the French and English armies. Edgar hid his father for safety under a tree while the battle was being fought. The battle began, and the English army under Edmund won. Unfortunately for Lear and Cordelia, they were both captured.
Take them away and watch them well until we decide what to do with them.
Lear was not afraid of going to prison if he could just be sure of staying with Cordelia. He tried to make her feel happier by saying,
Come, let's away to prison. We too will sing like birds in the cage.
But after they had been taken to prison, Edmund gave one of his soldiers a letter with secret orders to kill them. Albany understood that the danger to Lear and Cordelia, and he asked Edmund to let him look after the two of them.
Sir, you have shown yourself brave today and had good fortune. You have taken prisoners. I want those prisoners from you to deal with them as I think best.
Edmund said that he would let Albany have them, but not now. He would give them to him the next day. He said, Albany reminded Edmund that he should not talk like this to him, as the young man was not his social equal.
You were under me in this war. You were not my brother.
Then Goneril and Regan began to quarrel about Edmund until Regan suddenly became very ill and collapsed. Goneril had poisoned her. At this point, Albany arrested Edmund for treason. He decided that Edmund must face trial by combat.
Listen to this. I arrest you, Edmund, as a traitor. And with you, I arrest this snake in human clothes.
Edgar was the one who offered to fight Edmund and prove he was a traitor. He did this still without telling anyone who he really was. The two brothers fought and Edgar won. Edmund fell already close to death, and he now finally admitted all his crimes.
I was born as high as the man I've come to fight. Who speak for Edmund, heir of Gloucester?
I will defend myself. Have you anything to say?
I say that you are a traitor. Force your gods, your brother and your father, a traitor against this great prince, and from the top of your head to your feet, a dirty, low-down traitor. If you deny this, you are lying, and I will prove it with this sword.
I throw these lies back in your face.
You have been tricked. You do not have to fight unless you know your opponent's name.
Shut your mouth, woman, or I'll shut it with this letter. Read here, you run evil. Here.
I've done everything you accuse me of, and much, much more. Time will bring it all to light. It's history now, and so am I. Who are you? I forgive you my death.
Then Edgar finally showed who he was.
Let us forgive one another. I am your brother Edgar, whom you wronged.
Edgar went on to explain that their father had just died. It had happened like this. After he had found safety for the old man under a tree, he had told him he was the heir's son. Then, while getting ready for the battle, he had asked for his father's blessing. And at that moment, the old man had suffered a huge heart attack and died. But he had at least died happily in his son's arm. When Goneril realized that her husband knew about Edmund and her, she became desperate, ran away and killed herself with a knife in the heart. After a messenger had returned with his shocking news, Albany turned to ask dying Edmund what he had done with Lear and Cordelia. Edmund replied,
I want to do some good before I die. Send a messenger to the castle. Quickly. I ordered their deaths, but if you run, you might be in time. Go. Run.
Edgar started to leave for the castle as fast as possible, but he was too late. Cordelia had already been killed. A moment later, Lear arrived, carrying Cordelia's dead body in his arms. This final sorrow was too great for her father to bear. The old king's heart broke at last, and he died. In the end, only Kent, Edgar, and Albany were left to bury the dead. Goneril's husband, the Duke of Albany, became King of England. The end.
My name is Shakespeare William. I own the feather quill. I am the writer most familiar to you. My way with words amazes me. Came up with so many phrases me that still the number dazes me too. Oh, you gotta be cruel to be kind. If truth were known, love is blind. Yeah, each of these quotes you will find, it's what I do. Seen better days. That's one of his. Our salad days. He is the biz. All the world's a stage. They call me Billy Wheels. May seem kinda scary, I'm a walking dictionary. Sturdy with